Before the fame, before Hollywood, before the characters that defined a generation, there was just a lost boy named Johnny. Born in Owensboro, Kentucky, his early life was far from a fairy tale. His family was a whirlwind of constant moves and turmoil, a chaotic canvas painted with the strokes of frequent arguments and instability. For young Johnny, this wasn't a home. It was a storm he had to weather. And in the eye of that storm, he found his sanctuary. It wasn't in a person or a place, but in the six strings of a guitar. He would retreat into a world of chords and melodies, hiding from the painful reality of a family being torn apart at the seams. His guitar became his shield, his voice, his only constant friend in a life of perpetual change. This wasn't just a hobby, it was survival. The noise of his broken home was deafening, but the music he made was his escape, a quiet rebellion against the chaos that surrounded him. By the age of 15, the traditional path of school felt like another cage. He saw a different future for himself, one illuminated by stage lights and amplified by roaring crowds. He made a decision that would alter the course of his life forever. He dropped out of school. With the reckless abandon of youth, he decided to chase the electrifying dream of becoming a rock star. He poured all his hopes, his pain, and his passion into his band, the Kids. But as he would soon learn, destiny often writes its own script, and his was about to take a dramatic, unexpected turn. The path to stardom he envisioned was not the one he was meant to walk. With the sun-drenched, palm-lined streets of Los Angeles calling his name, Johnny packed up his life, which at the time consisted of little more than his trusted guitar and a heart full of fragile hope. He and his band arrived in the City of Angels, ready to conquer the world. But LA is a city that chews up dreamers and spits them out. The glamorous fantasy quickly dissolved into a gritty reality. Days were spent hustling, nights were spent on friends' couches, and the dream of rock and roll glory seemed to be fading with every closed door. He sold pens over the phone to make ends meet, a far cry from the stadium concerts he imagined. The rejection was relentless. He played in cheap, dimly lit bars where the audience was more interested in their drinks than the music. The frustration was a constant companion, a heavy weight on his shoulders. It was a time of immense struggle, of questioning every choice he had ever made. He was on the verge of giving up, another forgotten face in a city of millions. But sometimes, a single piece of advice, a simple sentence from a friend, can be the spark that ignites a revolution. And that spark was about to come from an unlikely source. One day, while navigating the maze of his uncertain future, his friend, a young and equally ambitious actor named Nicolas Cage, saw something in him. It wasn't his musical talent that caught Cage's eye, but a raw, unpolished quality, a certain charisma that couldn't be taught. He looked at Johnny, the struggling musician, and said something that would echo through the rest of his life. "You should try acting." The suggestion was simple, almost casual, but for Depp, it was a lifeline. It was a completely different path, one he had never considered. But with nothing left to lose and every other door seemingly bolted shut, he took a leap of faith. He met with an agent, landed an audition, and against all odds, scored his first role in A Nightmare on Elm Street. That one piece of advice, that one fateful conversation, didn't just open a door, it blew the hinges off. It was the moment the musician started to become the actor, and the boy from Kentucky began his transformation into a global icon. From that first small role, the snowball effect began, but it was his part in the TV series 21 Jump Street that catapulted him into the stratosphere of fame. Suddenly, Johnny Depp was everywhere. His face was on magazine covers, his posters adorned the walls of teenagers across the world. He became an overnight teen idol, the heartthrob of a generation. The screams of fans followed him wherever he went. But for Johnny, this wasn't the dream. He felt trapped in a box, defined by his looks rather than his talent. He yearned for something more, something deeper. He didn't just want to be a pretty face. He wanted to be an artist, a true chameleon who could disappear into his roles. So he made a brave choice. He turned his back on mainstream heartthrob roles and ventured into the weird, the wonderful, and the profoundly unconventional. He found a kindred spirit in the visionary director Tim Burton, and together, they created magic. He became Edward Scissorhands, a gentle soul with blades for hands, a character that was both beautiful and heartbreaking. He stepped into the shoes of the eccentric filmmaker in Ed Wood, the bumbling constable Ichabod Crane in Sleepy Hollow, and of course the swaggering, swashbuckling Captain Jack Sparrow in Pirates of the Caribbean, a role so bizarre and risky that studio executives were convinced it would fail. With every strange, complex, and unforgettable character, he shattered expectations. He proved to the world, and more importantly to himself, that you don't have to follow the rules to succeed. You can be different, you can be an outsider, you can be weird, and you can still become a legend. But the higher you climb, the harder you can fall. And even legends are not immune to the gravitational pull of chaos. The spotlight that had once illuminated his genius began to cast long, dark shadows over his personal life. What was once private became public spectacle. His relationships, his struggles, his demons, they were all laid bare for the world to see, dissected and debated on every screen and in every tabloid. The headlines screamed with accusations, the internet buzzed with rumors, and the whispers turned into a roar. His life became a war zone, fought not on a battlefield but in the court of public opinion and eventually in an actual courtroom. The fallout was swift and brutal. Movie roles were canceled, his name was tarnished, and the industry that had built him up seemed ready to tear him down. The world that had once cheered for him, that had celebrated his quirky genius, now pointed fingers. The silence from Hollywood was deafening. In the midst of the chaos, the paparazzi flashes felt like machine gun fire, and the man who had brought joy to millions looked lost, isolated and broken. But true strength isn't measured by an unbroken streak of success. It's not about never falling. It's about what you do when you hit the ground. It's about finding the courage to rise again. After years of being defined by headlines and speculation, years spent in a self-imposed silence, Johnny Depp decided it was time to fight back. He stepped into a courtroom, not as Captain Jack Sparrow or Edward Scissorhands, but as himself, a man determined to reclaim his name and his truth. The world watched, captivated, as the trial unfolded live. It was raw, it was messy, and it was deeply personal. He stood tall, facing the storm head-on, laying his life bare for everyone to scrutinize. He answered every question, weathered every accusation, not with the bravado of a celebrity, but with the quiet resolve of a man fighting for his legacy, for his children, and for the simple, fundamental right to be heard. And when the verdict was read, when the jury found in his favor, a wave of relief and vindication washed over him. Outside the courthouse, fans who had stood by him erupted in cheers. It was a powerful, triumphant moment. This victory wasn't just his alone. It resonated with people everywhere. It became a symbol for anyone who has ever been broken, misunderstood, or counted out, yet refused to stay down for the count. So what does the wild, turbulent, and incredible journey of Johnny Depp teach us? It's a story of survival, of art, and of incredible resilience. It shows us that your beginnings don't have to define your end. It doesn't matter if you come from a broken home or face endless rejection. It doesn't matter if the world builds you up just to tear you down. No matter how dark your past gets or how bleak your present feels, your story isn't over yet. Life will knock you down. It will test you, challenge you, and push you to your absolute limit. But the narrative is still yours to write. You hold the pen. So keep fighting for your truth. Keep believing in your dream, even when no one else does. And remember, in the grand cinematic story of your life, comebacks are always, always louder than setbacks. Never give up. This is Dream Chasers Hub T4T. If this story of resilience and redemption inspired you, if it moved you in any way, please show your support and help us create more content like this. Take a moment to hit that subscribe button and join our community. Thank you for watching.